Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. It feels weird recording on a Wednesday. It's been a long time since we've done this.
It just doesn't feel like a Wednesday. It feels like a Thursday, and week is completely off for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, it's just weird. It's been a strange day.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how. I mean, I've been feeling like that this week as well. It just seems like everything is just like out of kilter. I don't know if it's like where in the calendar things just kind of like got weird for me, but it's definitely been one of those things where I feel like I feel like it's a day ahead than what it actually is.
Yeah, definitely a day ahead. But tonight we do finally get to talk about the Batman in the later half of the show. And then I don't like, you've thrown me so much because you were trying to avoid a production meeting recording that I'm like, okay, well, I guess we'll just start quickly with Superman and Lois because they did drop a brand new episode, which is basically titled Two Kryptonian Brothers and Other People.
It should have been titled that, I think, for sure.
So what were your thoughts on this episode, Will?
Yeah, so wow. I liked it. I mean, it was a solid episode for them. I mean, again, they're going to be taking a 1 week break this month. So they're off next week, but then it will be back March 22nd. But for a, I guess, for lack of a better term, mid-season finale, it definitely closed out some arcs, and then really opened up some very interesting story possibilities with who the real big bad of the season is.
I hate CW breaks. Like, they have the worst scheduling ever. They need to fire whoever does the scheduling. Like, it's getting ridiculous. It shouldn't surprise me at this rate with the amount of CW shows we cover and have been dealing with this. But I mean, if I was a writer, I would just be like, I want to know when these episodes are being scheduled sooner than later.
Yeah.
With that being said, there are worse ways this could have ended for me. They could have pulled what they did with Batwoman with that, what felt like a lot of momentum, and then, oh wait, we're going away for 2 weeks and then going to drop the last 2 episodes. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. Thank goodness they didn't do
That's a
that.
long way.
Yeah.
With that being said, I think while I was watching this episode, I had somewhat of an epiphany, if you will. And maybe it's because in addition to watching this episode and catching up on a few other shows in my rotation, I also have been cramming in reviews of the Batman, just trying to make sure I understand everything that happened and all of the plot points. But and so I was watching Superman and Lois, and I was just thinking to myself, you know what? I feel like Superman and Lois, out of all of these DC shows, we spend a lot of talk about fathers and sons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in this show, I feel like we spend way more time with the moms. More times with the moms. And I would call it, there's like, the show is very different than iterations we've seen of these characters before, because I think there is this maternal aspect of it that we really haven't seen, not only in Superman, but also in pretty much majority of the DC, or if not even Marvel, franchises. And it just was because they spent so much time in the Fortress of Solitude with the mom, which is a character that we're often used to seeing as the father or the grandfather, if you will. So that was one of my takeaways. And I mean, this is just another solid entry into this season.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, I think, we talked about this with the show last season. Just the strong presence of Lois, and we see it even more so this season. Like this episode, you're right. It really, the three focal points really did center on the moms in this episode. We had Lois trying to hold everything together in Smallville because Clark is been captured by Anderson and taken away to the prison to be with Talro. We had Lana and her ongoing struggles with the fallout from her kicking Cal out due to the affair. And then we had Superman's mother. And helping, trying to help both Clark and Tal relate to Bizarro, and ended up having a very pivotal point when Anderson did break into Tal's Fortress of Solitude, right. and really helping to save the day in some regards with at least saving Clark, because that was definitely a situation where Anderson definitely had the upper hand on both the two sons.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think so far the buildup with Anderson has been good. And this is a first for me. I almost wish they had waited another episode for him to go real rogue. I just felt like it was, I mean, we have had a few scenes, especially in last week's episode, where he's getting the pressure from above him to do good and make nice with Soups. But for some reason, he just has this idea that Soups is on another team. And then he just goes completely rogue and ruins his entire career. He pulls, I forget the character's name from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah. The U.S. agent.
Yeah, he pulls one of a U.S. agent on them all. And but I mean, even with all of that stuff, all of that action, you also just have this. This isn't a good segue at all. But this whole thing going on with Lois just at home, because she can't do anything about the Kryptonians, but she can definitely discipline her son, who Jonathan got in trouble. The lie is out. Everything's exposed, but it looks like he's willing to take the fall for his girlfriend. Did they close the loop on that or no?
No. He is still, but it's, I know you were saying this not you're having a difficult segue, but I think you actually had a perfect one there from Anderson to Jonathan, because they're both taking the XK, and it's both of them are doing it out of different, a similar motivation of wanting to be better,
right,
and then being able to hold their own in the world. Anderson, in the sense that he doesn't trust Clark, so he's like, okay. At first, he used the XK to build his own super soldiers, and then of course Jonathan taking it so he could be the star quarterback on the football team. But I love the way they have set this up, especially when Clark learned about what happened when he finally did get released, and of course he had the very stern Papa talk after what Lois had done with Jonathan. Clark didn't have really much to do at that point, other than just show up and just look stern. Because Lois just flat out was like, all but kicked him out of the house, and pretty much would have. But I think if but she had some other things she had to take care of at that point.
Yeah.
But
ironically, I think that Lois is more scary than Clark to the boys.
Oh yeah. Mom. We all know moms. You never want to. Dad. You can
No, that's not true for everyone,
Bill.
That's definitely that was not true for me growing up. Yes,
okay, yeah. For me,
it's not true for everyone.
True. Well, I guess yeah, I guess it can go either way, but there's one parent, which parent that will give you the break, and there's the parent that may be quiet, but then once they explode, then watch out. So so it seems maybe in this household, maybe Lois is the one that blows up, but maybe Clark's the one that they're afraid of, but when Lois loses her shit, then they know they really effed up. Right.
Definitely. Speaking about households, we kind of get a tease that is it Khal? Is that Edge's real name?
Yeah. Okay. Khal Rogue. Yeah.
Khal Rogue. I'm just gonna call him Edge because I think that's a better name. And I'm tired of all the Cal, like, come on. But we get this idea that Edge has a wife who tried to kill Bizarro Superman in the other world. So that can only mean, no, it can't. I'm sure there's other people it could be, but my first guess is Allie, of course.
So my first guess when I heard that, I thought it was Lana.
That would be hilarious. Oh my god. That would be so funny.
And the reason why, because whenever we got that scene of Bizarro fighting in the prison, she had the crest of the House of Rogue.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I thought it was Lana.
Okay.
But I like Allie too.
Actually, now that I think about it, it could be Lana too, because there was that weird, he had a thing for her back in season 1.
He did.
They didn't go too far with that, but yeah, there was so maybe, but you never know. I mean overall, just a good episode.
Yeah.
It helped kind of again, it's all about momentum. And this show has a way to keep momentum going while closing up things or tying things up and just pushing forward with where they want to take these characters this year.
Yeah. It was a solid episode. Getting this one last thought about Jonathan, with him taking the fall for his girlfriend, and I just can't help but think that if the situation were reversed, she'd be singing like a canary. But
oh, absolutely, that relationship is doomed, and I wonder if we're gonna see any withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. And yeah, and then also this relationships too is just with Sarah and Jordan, and we finally do meet the girl from summer camp that she kissed. Yeah, so I thought that was a nice little touch that they brought that back introduced her to us formally in this episode, and I thought that was a nice way of I don't think it's going to be any kind of love triangle or anything like that. I mean, I think Sarah and Jordan will have other issues come up, or maybe it will reopens that wound that
it will.
So I mean, now that I think about it,
they're likely to break up by the end of the season, and that means that there's going to be a new love triangle next season.
Yeah.
Between two brothers, if you will. I think it's very interesting how both the boys right now tied up with these other girls. Very likely they're not going to be with either one of them by the end of the season. And there, like the first season, there were some hints there that there could be some jealousy and rivalry because Sarah is a friend to both of them. So
yeah. I'm so glad they haven't gone that route, and I would be disappointed, honestly, if they went that way at this juncture.
right. I think it depends on what happens. Like and love triangles are annoying, but sometimes they work so well.
Yeah.
Like it depends on the speed. Like just going back to Batwoman, the whole Sophie and Ryan thing, we knew that was going to come, but this season they just like went all in very quickly and there was no build. And so they can't do that if they're going to do this love triangle because you have to like both relationships. And so you as a viewer have to be just as torn as that single point in it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And maybe it's just because I feel like some of the producers were talking about that, like even before the show aired. And that's what has been, I'm like, I'm just waiting for you to play that card. I feel like you have it and you're setting up some pieces, but I'm just waiting for you.
Yeah.
I don't, and I guess if you had asked me last season, I would be like, I would be so mad that they're going to do this. But I mean, we're looking at maybe happening in season 3. You're starting to get momentum into the show. So, and for all I know, it could take even to season 4 to do it. I think that there's a strong likelihood of it happening at one point.
Yeah, I disagree with you. I don't think they're going to go there. But we shall see. We shall see.
I did skip over one news item that dropped today, if you will. So we weren't even planning about talking about this or making a return to this universe, but the teaser trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi did drop along with some photos. Both of us have seen it. I just got one question. Have one question because between all the Star Wars stuff, all the Dune and just like these futuristic in another world type things. What's with all the fucking sand? Okay? I'm just tired of just seeing these landscapes filled with sand. I'm like, oh, okay. So why can't we like shoot this in a more beautiful world to explore? Like, why does it always have to be in a desert?
I think
desert?
Yeah, well, if I recall, Obi-Wan, it's only going to be 6 episodes. So I think we will get set up on Tatooine. I mean, obviously we saw that in the trailer. We saw, obviously he's keeping an eye on Luke, and we they went ahead and dropped this little scene of Luke playing at Aunt and Uncle's farm. So we'll also have some moments on Tatooine, but I have to feel that at this juncture, especially after Boba Fett, this series will probably spend more time off-world and other places than we'll be playing in the sand.
See, I don't know. I think it's going to be 50-50. I think there's going to be a lot of sand, and it's just going to bother me because that was what bothered me about Boba Fett. Mandalorian had a lot of sand too, especially in the first season, not so much in the second season. We actually saw an ice planet at one point in the second season. Like, come on.
Yeah.
There are other
planets. There are. At least we because I mean basically we get sand. In Star Wars you got basically 3 different, you got sand, ice, and jungle. I mean, that's about it. That's like all the worlds. You don't have like you don't.
I just wanted to.
Coruscant. And in Coruscant you have one city. A city planet.
But I mean, all of these teasers for these Star Wars Disney Plus shows, Star Wars movies, they always visually look the same, especially within the last decade. For some reason, my mind always goes to Rogue One trailer. Whenever I see these, whether it was Mandalorian, whether it was Boba Fett, or whether it was now Obi-Wan, like that's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Because that was a beautiful trailer and there was something very raw about that. And I mean, this is just following suit. I'm excited about this show. I think that there's a lot that can be told.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I need to see another trailer, because trailers ruin things for people, and we will talk about that in just a few minutes. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I hear you. I mean, I will say this, and not agree with you on trailers. Sometimes less is, you don't need to like show like everything, but also trailers have a way of being deceptive. So, but I will say that I did start watching Star Wars Rebels, and I will have to say that whenever I saw the Grand Inquisitor like show up on screen, it definitely hit different than it would have if I hadn't watched Rebels, because like now I have better context for what we will probably see in this upcoming series. And I guess just overall, I think with the new Star Wars, and in particular with Filoni and his involvement with these new shows that are part of this universe, I'm really seeing how they're pulling all those threads with some of those animated series shows into the live action. So so that was my other big takeaway from the trailer, why I was just like, wow, okay, this is pretty exciting.
Yeah. I mean, Filoni is becoming, if not is, the Feige of the Star Wars universe, where from all of the people who have shown up over the course of 2.5 Mandalorian seasons, I mean, they're all callbacks to characters who has appeared in his world or in the world. And so it just, I think what we're noticing is like, no, there is like one person with a clear vision of how this is all supposed to go together.
Yeah.
Which allows viewers to build this idea of what this world is and have consistency in it. So you're not thrown a different director with each movie, and you're like that's what fell apart with the original or the latest trilogy, is like had a lot of different visions, same story, went in a lot of weird places. So you need one person at the helm, especially if you're delving into narratives that are supposed to go off and tell new stories, even though they all seem to circle back to the same one. Just saying, Boba Fett kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, but I am and have been excited. I will say, out of the two projects, I've always been more on board with Obi-Wan than I have with Boba Fett. So
same here.
I think this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And looking forward to it. Just chill on the sand, okay? Like I live in Alaska, okay? I should be excited to see sand. I'm really not. I'm actually bored.
Well, at least if you see sand, at least have a beach with it, right?
Like, maybe. I don't know. There's just something. I'm tired of all of these. Oh, it's such a beautiful movie. I'm like, 90% of it, we were just looking at a desert. How's that? Like, come on. Man. All right. Well, on that note, we will finally get to talk about the big movie, the big Batman, and all of his things. But it's funny because with this opening weekend of the show, this movie, we have all of these announcements about sudden, and I know, surprise, we're talking about the DCEU.
Yep.
Black Adam is never going to premiere, guys. Just get on board. We continue to have date changes. And so when was the Black Adam supposed to drop?
It was supposed to drop end of July, but now DC Super Pets is going to take that spot.
And meanwhile, Black Adam got pushed to October 21, 2022.
Yep.
Very odd for that movie to get pushed in the fall. I think it's going to have a similar reaction to the Eternals now. But, and then The Flash, another movie I never think is actually happening, has been moved from November 4th to June 23rd. Aquaman 2.
Which, of 2020. No, you left out the important part. 2023.
2020. Yeah. June 23, 2023.
Yeah.
June 23.
Yeah.
Again, people, like, when Sarah says things are not happening, I really, like, they never disappoint me.
Yep.
You just have to lose faith in the DCEU, and then maybe it'll live up to expectations, but just lose all faith.
Yep.
And then Aquaman, which I know we're all, like, direly anticipating, because when did Aquaman drop?
Oh, it was
like 2018, 2017.
I think it was like 2018. I think yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so most people have forgotten about him, which only means that Aquaman 2 is going to feature a lot of flashbacks.
Yep.
Oh man! And so when is Aquaman 2 coming?
Now it's coming. Was originally supposed to be December 16, but now it's going to March 17 of 2023.
So, place your bets now. Which one will premiere first, The Flash or Aquaman 2?
Yeah.
Oh man.
But the funny thing about it.
Yeah,
go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna say the funny thing about it. The funny thing about it, it's like all this news drops, and when I saw the Batman this weekend, they had they had attached to the trailer all this great stuff happening in 2022 with the DC universe. I'm like, Warner, really?
Clips from the movie that you're just about to watch, which pisses me off, always bothers me. I'm like, we're here. We want to watch this. Like, why are you showing me things that I'm just about to spend 3 hours? Like, come on.
Yep.
And then the other one, and I don't think I've ever thought that Shazam 2 was not going to happen. It's been also a while since we've seen Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
But that one actually got moved up, surprisingly. Yeah. And so now it will be our DCEU Christmas gift, because, sequels from DCEU that occur during the holiday season have never failed. Wonder Woman 2. But this one, I remember liking Shazam. I've never rewatched the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember overall just having a good time with it. And
yeah, I did too.
So, and it's a good family movie, so I can see why they're also targeting time of year. So.
Yep. So it's coming now. So it moves to Aquaman's original spot, which was December 16th of this year. So.
All right. Well.
Everybody got that?
Anxiously waiting.
Yeah.
And just here you go. Just talk about how much you love the Batman.
I love this film. I unapologetically will put that out there. I love this film. I'm like trying to figure out when can I go see this thing again. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was, as soon as you sent me that DM, I was like, yeah, we'll love this movie. It's a rarity where he says, when can I see this movie? It's only 3 hours long. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I keep harping on that runtime. To me, the movie actually was paced fairly well. I don't think it's a bad thing that it was 3 hours. I don't think it needed to be 3 hours. Hell no. But it's what it is. It's a movie they needed to make, and then this way we don't have to have a 4.5 hour director's cut, right? Right.
But here's the thing, and I got that whole runtime thing. I'm not going to spend any really much time on it, other than I agree with you that pacing wise, it was paced very well. I didn't feel like I mean. There's been 2 hour films where I'm looking at my watch, like, hurry up and get the hell over, because I'm ready to move on. this film, I was so like in that universe. When it ended, I was like, oh, I mean, so I think that's just a crutch that a lot of like critics and people on their reviews have been putting out there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, tell me what you would have cut, because the way, like to your point, it the story that they told overall needed. If you're taking one of those pieces away, then it would have like undermined the overall arc of the film.
Like, I don't think it's about taking away plot points. I think it's more about taking away, let's not watch this person walk 15 million steps.
Like, I mean, but
let's cut.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, again, again, I guess it's just preference, or just, again, like I said, I think that's just when people put that out there, it's just you're nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking at that point.
Right. So I this is a good movie. There isn't anything necessarily outrageously egregious about it. I, unlike Will, did not get lost in it, because I just spent the entire movie being like, okay, I've seen this in the trailer, I've seen this in the trailer. That's okay. Mm-hmm. I for some reason, and looking back at it, and granted, it's been 24 hours ago, I was in the movie theater watching this thing. But coming out of it, I kept thinking about Spider-Man, because I had a similar issue going into Spider-Man No Way Home, where I felt like the trailers gave away so much. But for whatever reason, I got lost in that story, where I actually was fine with what the trailers did, but for something for the Batman, I didn't get that far lost in it. And maybe it's because it was a mystery the entire time. And it wasn't, like again, there's nothing wrong with this movie. I don't know. I'm less excited over it than Will is. I was less blown away in it. It's the only reason why I spent all day today thinking about it is because we were going to record. If we weren't going to record, I probably would have moved on really quickly, which is a very different reaction than I had coming out of The Dark Knight.
See, so I'm trying to take myself back to the time when I watched The Dark Knight, when I watched it in theater.
You don't have to.
Yeah. No. Well, like, yeah. Or even just watch it, or even just rewatching it. I mean, for me, with these Bat films, with Dark Knight, and I know I'm trying to guard against recency bias with this version of the Batman. But for me, my initial reaction was it was right there with Dark Knight with me.
Yeah, it's close.
I mean, it really, and I think.
And maybe that's why I had a problem. It's almost too close.
And so, and it's funny about the trailer, and we talk, about the discussion about the trailer and trailers and what they showed and all, but I think what the mystery and the detective story for me as a fan of someone who's of the comic and we've always had the whole thing about he's world's greatest detective and all that kind of stuff. I think why this felt so fresh and good to me was because it was a fresh story, and we didn't fall in the what we've seen in media before with Batman. I mean, when I think back to like the Nolan trilogy, which is right there, basically it's like the Nolan trilogy and this and I've over time I've grown to appreciate Batman '89 more. So I would have to say, these are like in my top 5 as far as live action.
Yeah. he the world's greatest detective? Because I keep hearing people say that coming out of this movie, especially people who like it, who said we finally got Detective Batman, which I agree. He did more detective work. However, there's another character by the name of Alfred who was doing a lot of key deciphering.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, but that's
a lot of hints.
Yeah, well, there's that too. I mean, that's that Bruce
and
Bat.
he really didn't solve. He solved one of the riddles, but at the end, he was too late to really see the bigger picture of bigger plan. So he like I think it's not. I think by the end of this trilogy, he'll be the world's greatest detective.
Yeah, but
I don't think like coming out of the gate.
No.
That's a fair thing to say because he didn't do that much.
No, and that's my point.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we see the Nolan trilogy, he was, I mean, from Begins, he went off, he's training, and we see in Begins, we see some of the detective things there, but I feel like with Batman Begins, he gets his fighting and everything was accelerated in that trilogy. Then, catching him here in year 2, and we're seeing the next day after, I guess, Batman Begins, where he's still refining those points that by the time we see him in Batman '89. I think we get the full realized version of Batman, because
Mm-hmm.
we Batman '89, because everybody thinks about Keaton, where Keaton nails Bruce Wayne, and I will say to some degree Christian Bale does as well when we see him in The Dark Knight and even in Rises.
Mm-hmm.
Here we're getting sort of the edges of year 1 Batman that we see in Batman Begins, and in because even when we think back at Batman Begins, Alfred tells Bruce, hey, you need to live a little to keep up this, you can't be all work all the time. And so now we're in year 2, I guess we're kind of, we're still, he still hasn't figured out how to make all that happen. So by the time we see him in Dark Knight, he's figured out how to do that the Playboy persona, but also continue the raw Batman as well. So that's one of the things I really liked about this film, is because I feel like we're catching Bruce in between assuming that these were all, if this was a shared universe, we're catching him in that in-between period. And I just like to see that. We've never really seen that in live action before. So I really, really grabbed onto that as far as seeing that evolution of him in this film.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Batman evolved. I don't think Bruce Wayne evolved. Right. Because they called it the Batman for a reason, which pisses me off when I've heard that about criticism. Well, we haven't really seen Bruce Wayne. I'm like, well, duh.
Yeah, exactly.
They focused on one half of the persona. They're not going to do this, Will, but I think it would be really funny if the sequel is called Bruce Wayne. Really
Bruce Wayne is the Batman.
Right. Yeah. Hats off to Pattinson. Like, he just reminded me about why I have had a huge crush on this man for, like, since seeing him in Twilight. B, his acting. I was never upset about the casting, and for some reason I knew he could do what I always love, which is when you can showcase emotions through your face and through your eyes without any dialogue. And there's a few scenes where he does that perfectly.
And body language.
Yeah, and because he doesn't even have that many lines.
Yeah.
I feel like he, like, if you count up everybody else's lines in the movies, it's probably the same as how many he has, if not maybe maybe he has a few less, because he's silent and broody. I wouldn't call him emo. I don't think it's about this emo thing. They didn't lend heavily in that. He just is a broken person.
Yes.
Who has like hidden himself away and is a recluse and everything. And it's interesting though how this whole movie is about the evolution of Batman, like from this symbol of vengeance, and then realizing, no, I have to be a symbol of hope, which is something that I feel like I called when we were talking about the trailers. I'm just saying, not surprised. But they also in the background very subtly made nods about him not really understanding the Wayne legacy, which, to your point, we'll see not next movie, if not by the end of it, like that fully come full circle as well.
Yeah, I liked. Yeah, that was that. You're right. They definitely touched on that mega times, and then also just from a story point of the Wayne making a good like head fake moment with Thomas and his like legacy. And this is the second film where we've had this situation, you know, because in Joker we had a situation where Thomas was, you know, didn't seem to be all up and up. And then, and even in the Nolan trilogy too. I mean, when you think about it, you know, the Thomas not necessarily being a bad guy, but you know how the Waynes, you know, propped up Gotham. You know, and in the Nolan trilogy, it was like the infrastructure and the buildings and those kind of things. And this film, it was the, you know, the renewal program that you know, that ended up being a slush fund for the criminal and corrupt politicians in Gotham, but also the whole story with Thomas trying to protect Martha, and in this case not Martha Kane but Martha Arkham, which I liked. That was another like twist that they did that I thought was something I didn't see coming with them taking this, you know, into another universe. As far as why, you know, why Thomas did what he did, and I really liked how they like made the point that, you know, good people can sometimes make bad decisions, but that doesn't necessarily make them evil.
Make them bad people.
They make good people can make bad decisions, but at the end of the day, they're still a good person. But you know, no.
It sounded never mind.
Yeah.
It sounded like you said doesn't make them people, and I was like, yeah, bad.
Yeah, bad people. Yeah, maybe the bad guy dropped.
I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
I would say if you're going to compare it to Joker did it better. The head fake, that is, the head fake bothered me. I actually thought it was clumsy because I feel like this movie spends a lot of time leaning in heavily into things, whether it is the noir aspect, whether it's the detective aspect, we want to make a comic book movie that is reminiscent of Seven or Saw. I think more Saw, but it, for some reason, it started going down that path, and we even talked about that as being a potential likelihood based on the trailers. And then they went in, and then they swerved, and I'm like, really? But that would be more interesting in the long run. But I mean, he made a mistake, but he didn't really make a mistake. He made a half mistake. Like it would have been one thing. Like I don't know. It just felt like Alfred was still apologizing for something that at the end of the day he was also explaining to Bruce, like, he didn't do that. He semi did it.
but he
I don't know. It didn't
but
work.
he did. It worked. I mean, he did do it. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, Bruce had this I mean, I think the point of that was to show Bruce that even the angels among us have to be very careful because you could easily go down a dark path.
Yeah, but Bruce already knew that. I mean, based on his
but
and a bunch of other stuff he did.
Yeah, but no, but I think Bruce. I think Bruce has this idea of his parents as infallible people,
Mm-hmm.
and why and this, you know, and that's why he, you know, has that mantra at the beginning of this is about vengeance because I'm avenging their deaths because these evil bastards in Gotham took them down.
Mm-hmm.
So I
right.
mean, yeah. So I think that's why it was. You know, I think that scene with Alfred in the hospital was very important. And
I'm not saying it wasn't important. I'm just saying it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Okay, fair enough.
What's another scene that we can debate that we probably have different? What are your thoughts on Dano, Mr. Riddler?
Oh, I he I loved the Riddler was scary, creepy, you know, the way the film started, I think really set the tone for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we first get him, you know, looking out and stalking the mayor and stuff. Because at first I was like, is this Batman? And then I realized like, oh no, it's not. But then, so that really set the tone. And then all throughout, with the riddles, and even like whenever they were at the church with the DA, and having the real time having to solve the riddles and stuff. I mean, it was, you know, again, it was just like it was one of those things where, you know, you had to be thinking on your feet each time because you just didn't know what was going to come next from him as far as the riddles and piecing together, you know, why his motivations for doing what he did was I thought was a good storytelling point.
What about the head fake of the Riddler not knowing who Batman is?
I'm so glad yeah. When we first started going Bruce Wayne, I was like, oh no, they're not doing this. I was about to be that if they had put it this way, if they had revealed it, I would not love this movie. I mean, I was like, really?
Right.
Because it's only year 2, damn it. But I thought that was effective. I will say I was more Pattinson in that scene to me gave me more intensity, gave me the more, I guess, like vibe than Dano did, as far as just like eliciting some emotional response. Right. Dano to me was just like, okay, it's just like that one did fall a little flat for me, I will have to say, but I think Pattinson's response to it is what made that scene work.
Yeah, I agree to an extent where I felt like it was the way the whole scene played out with the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just that one scene. There was a lot of tease. Like a lot of viewers, a lot of audience members have had to be thinking, okay, he clearly knows. I mean, we're piecing things together just like the Batman. And the Batman thinks he knew. So yeah. So going into that, and that's why there was so much dramatic tension coming from Pattinson, because it's like you as a viewer are also supposed to be on the edge. Like, does he know?
Yeah.
And then more importantly, my mind is like, how are they going to get out of this? Like, what is he going to do to get out of this? Like, I don't think that it's going to get revealed. I think, like, you can sum it up. The man's clearly insane and out of his mind, probably dropping drops forever.
Yep.
But instead they did that head fake, which a part of me, I'm like annoyed at, because again, it's another thing that was clearly set up. And like clearly set up, it pissed me off when we see all of these murders
Yeah.
that the Riddler does, and it's like he's physically face to face committing the murders, except for Bruce Wayne, which he mails a package. I'm like, well, like.
Yeah, but I guess his opportunity. Yeah, but I guess he could have like, because even like in the church, maybe that was his intent.
It was weird how dummy, this is the one that got away because you kept letting him
get away.
He had so many opportunities. It's so weird. So it stuck out to me as like, I don't like I wanted the Joker to be more menacing in that, not the Joker. I wanted the Riddler to be more menacing, but at the same time, retrospectively, if they really are using the Riddler as being the through line big bad of this new trilogy, then it helps his character, because now in this first movie, he was approaching the Batman as someone to admire, someone who he could be friends with, someone who he's doing what the Batman is doing. We're allies. Yeah. But now he feels betrayed, and now he also is gonna go down that path of the greatest riddle of them all is, who is the Batman? And so I kind of appreciate that angle, even though I think it could have been executed better. Yeah, and I feel like in that third act, like I agree with you, he was menacing, he was really good, and then things fell apart, and they always fall apart for me in these movies with the third act. But like, and it's not even Dano's performance necessarily; it's just the way the scenes that were shown from that point forward, where I was like, okay, so
yeah. I mean, the third act. I mean, yeah. I didn't have too much of a fall off, where it fell into the traditional, I guess, superhero film trope with the mass calamity and creation of no man's land and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have that, because I think, and again, in the context of the story that was being told, we needed to have it basically served as a very explosive MacGuffin to get Bruce to realize that I have to be a symbol for hope.
Right. No, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I do think that out of all of the villain plans that we've seen, the Joker's plan overall was probably the best I've seen in a long time. And he was like big picture the whole entire time. And it was cool, but there was just something about how it played out from the point of him getting arrested forward, how everything started to play out. It was like, we really don't want to make this a 4-hour movie, so we're gonna speed some things up, slow some things down, and then and make sure that we have a freaking long motor bicycle scene. Like, again, speaking about things that can be cut like 2 minutes from that.
Well, no, it's just all the things we saw in the trailer, because we saw like we definitely got everything we saw in the trailer, because that's where my mind is like, we haven't seen this scene yet, they haven't said that line yet, huh? We got the bat and the cat.
I wonder when we're gonna see this. But yeah, so
so I we can't not talk about Colin Farrell.
Okay.
And of course, part of that is, one, we did get confirmation that the Penguin series is going to be is a go officially, and I know, and again, we did get a teaser, the car chase and stuff. I will say I love the Batmobile on this. That was another thing where I had some adrenaline pumping like moment where we first get the first look at the Batmobile in this film. But what I liked about with the Penguin is it and obviously beyond the physical transformation, we've already talked about that before. But it was more his providing the moments of humor in this film, because that was, you know, in the context of the humor that this darker film could have. But I mean, whenever the scene with me, a couple scenes stand out with me was when Gordon and Batman had him, and they were trying to decipher the who's the rat. Mm-hmm. and he was like, don't you new guys know Spanish? I mean, you're supposed to be. Yeah, that was one of those moments where I did like laugh out loud when I was watching the film. And then also just the how he was sort of Falcone's guy that was just waiting for the right moment to ascend, and then of course whenever the Riddler did take him out, he's like, I didn't shoot him, but then he of course saw the opportunity to now to feel that criminal element leadership in Gotham. Yeah,
everyone keeps saying this isn't an origin movie. This isn't. I'm like, yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. It's just a different way to tell an origin story, mm-hmm. but still hitting on a lot of familiar. Like, no, we didn't see Bruce Wayne's parents die. It was talked a lot about.
Yeah, it's talked about
a lot.
Yeah.
The whole idea of who killed Bruce Wayne's parents is still a big mystery in Gotham. Yeah. Something that you're planting the seeds for. And then just like with the Batman and what we're talking about, how it started off as vengeance and then ended up with, no, I want to be a symbol for hope, or that's what the city needs. Mm-hmm. You get that whole arc too, where I think even the Riddler changes because he gets more and more crazy with every murder and falls down this pit of darkness as he takes this route. You also have that with the Penguin, where he's just a stooge, and then now as what you just said, like the vacuum of power, which is perfect, which is like we're not getting the Penguin is the ruler of all of Gotham right away. No, we're getting his origin story too. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Selena Kyle. Same thing with even Gordon. Like he's not commissioner yet. So I think that overall this is a movie that is an origin story for Gotham.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how through events that happened before this movie, have allowed these people to start making decisions that will eventually lead us to the Gotham that we're well acquainted with.
Yeah. Totally. This really, there were, and I think Matt Reeves touched on that in a lot of his interviews, that, we're seeing the proto versions of Catwoman and Penguin and others. And of course, we get the end scene there in Arkham with the unnamed Arkham prisoner. And so, which again, I guess, I think that also leads to the other spinoff that they're doing from this film, which is I know originally it was going to be a Gotham PD show, but once they really got into it and stuff, they couldn't really settle on having the telling the story, a prequel about the corruption of Gotham, but they're going to.
They tell the prequel story about the corruption of Gotham, I'm gonna be so mad.
They're not. They're not. They're actually moving away. They are going to now. It's going to focus more on Arkham and the asylum.
I don't even want the prequel of Arkham.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Arkham. I think they could probably not have to do that now. I mean, they could keep it in the same time frame as this.
Like,
no more prequels.
Get through a trilogy before you do a prequel to a trilogy. I don't. Let's move forward.
Yeah. Well,
I still have to say I was mad when they teased the Joker. I was like, oh, okay, haha. But then I found out who's playing that character, and I know Matt Reeves has said, kind of back and forth about who that is and everything. But the actor who plays it was my favorite actor in the Eternals, and so I'm like, yeah, I want to see it. But I also don't. I just and I also, even though I love the Penguin in this movie, I love him, and I can understand why they want to mine this well of money. Actually don't really want to see us series.
We said the same thing about Peacemaker.
No. I don't want to see a series about him, because I found his character to be more compelling in the context of this movie because of how his arc ran together with Batman's. Like, I don't want a show just focused on Penguin without Batman. Like,
I'm sure Batman will show up in it. I mean, it's only a limited series, and I mean, it'll probably be like a 7 episode kind of thing, and so it may work.
I'm sure, like, what I'm saying is I don't want, not going to work. I don't really want to see it, because I think there is, and what we've learned over the last few years is that there is a point where you get content overload, and these characters and these versions, like however many versions there are, you just get exhausted.
Yeah. And to your point about the Joker, that's where I am with the Joker at this point. I mean, I know they teased it, but it will be actually refreshing that if we had a new trilogy where we are focusing on some of the other people from Batman's Rogues Gallery, and the Joker is out there, but he's not the focal point of the film.
Yeah, I think that why they keep going back to that well is because they keep wanting a grounded version of a superhero, and there are quite a number of the Rogues Gallery for Batman who are metahumans. So it's hard to keep things grounded. So you want to focus on those street level, if you will, villains that still, and also, I mean, the Joker, and we've said this before, the Joker is just as big as a draw, if not more so than the Batman is to the box office. So
yeah, true. Everybody it's always about the box office, and everybody wants to put their signature mark on that character. But speaking of, but like I said, I mean, the other things, obviously, I think before we close up discussion about this is, a lot of things, other things I really enjoyed about the film. Of course, the cinematography. I mean, Gotham itself felt like alive, sort of like Gotham as a character was really at play here. It didn't feel like it was just, oh yeah, I can see that this is, we're in Pittsburgh or Chicago like we did in Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, and like it was with Gotham '89, Batman '89, where I felt like the city itself was like a character, and also like when the film first started, and like when Bruce is with the overlay of the voiceover talking about coming out of the shadows and stuff, and just his sheer, can't be everywhere, and how that worked. And another thing I like too, and I thought about Batwoman actually while I was watching it, is the journals. That was a nice. I thought about Batwoman and how those journals, while he was keeping track of like his adventures as the Dark Knight, and again, just this rich universe that even in other live action spinoffs and inspire stories, we have that. So that was a nice little touch that I took away from the film as well.
I would have liked the journals more had I not just watched 2 seasons of Batwoman or 3 seasons of Batwoman doing journaling. People were saying, yeah, and the fact that they incorporated journaling, I'm like, do you watch Batwoman? They've been doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have. Yeah. So it's not, I guess it didn't seem as original to me as oh my God.
Yeah, it wasn't so much it was an original thing. It was just one of those. It was like, it was a nice little hat tip, I guess, for me.
Yeah, I think again it just leads it. The reason why they did it is because they wanted to go noir, and that's
Mm.
having the voiceover is very noir
Yeah,
concept to
yeah.
include. So it delved into that. I will say Matt Reeves, when he's done making comic book movies, he needs to do a horror movie. I will not watch it, but if this movie proved to me anything, is that Matt Reeves has an eye for and a way to build suspense and tension
Hmm.
that is very scary without actually showing blood shed or the gore or the guts, like, but still you're terrified
Yeah,
and on the edge of your seat. And the way he did that through at least 2/3 of this movie was beautiful, and I think he could very well execute a horror movie in a way that is very tasteful. So
yeah, yeah.
that's
Yeah, you're.
out there.
Yeah.
Again, will not watch it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think he should. All right. Well, I think that is it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can follow me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.snnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.